Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ramadan Mubarak to all of you. I pray this month has met you in good states of hope and receptivity. I wanted to share a little bit today about this idea of Himya and its connection to Ramadan. As the scholars teach us, Ramadan comes from the triliteral root of Ramadan, which means to burn up, to heat up. And they tell us that this refers to two things mainly. One is the burning up of the stomach because of the fast and the digestive juices and the chyme within one's stomach kind of not having something to burn. And so it's kind of burning itself and kind of getting feverish and hot in the core, in the upper abdomen. That's uh, Ramadan. And also the burning up of the sins, right? Because this month is a month of forgiveness, a month of mercy, a month of freedom from the hellfire. It's a month of purification. So it's the burning up of our sins, our misgivings, and our mishaps, and our offenses towards Allah Ta'ala. And a connected term to this Ramadan is Himya, I believe. So I'm offering all of you. Himya comes from, in my estimation, two triliteral roots. It has two connections. One is Hama, and the other is Hamiya. Hama means a protection or a shield or defense. And this is really interesting to me because in the Quran, God connects fasting with taqwa. And taqwa, which we all know means God consciousness, has another meaning of shield, of a protection. God having a wiqaya is having a shield. And that's like a hama, right? But the other meaning of himya comes from hamiya, which means also to burn up, to heat up, right? The humma is the fever. So there's this theme here between these two words of, we can say Ramadan, the concept of Ramadan, and the concept of hamiya, of this biliousness, this choleric energy, this fire energy. But himya is a clinical term that's used by hakims in Hikma Medicine, and it refers to the individualized restrictive diet that's given to the patient. Now, a hakim will give a patient a himya before administering a dawa, the other type of therapeutic intervention that the hakim can use, right? The hakim has two main approaches. He has, or she has, the himya and he has the dawa. And the hakim say we must always establish the himya before giving the dawa. The dawa is the medicine, it's the external kind of prescription that you give. So it's like the homeopathic or the herbal or the pharmaceutical medicine that you to direct the physiology, to direct the energy of the body in a certain way. But the Hakim say we can't do that properly until we first establish the himya. Because when you establish the himya, you free up the ruh al-haywani, the spirit, the vital force. You free up the energy of the body to be able to be directed appropriately thereafter by the prescription. Yes? So, for example, a lot of our energy is consumed, that's unintended, by our metabolism, especially the digestive branch of our metabolism that breaks down food and breaks down proteins and carbs and the macros and makes them assimilatable in the small intestine. 60% of our energy, it's estimated, is consumed by this process. So when you're fasting, all that energy is freed up now. You don't have to use that for breaking down food because there's no food. So now, what do you do? What does the body do with this energy? Well, it directs it towards other things that are needed, like healing, like tissue repair, like restoring physiological function that's been arrested or disturbed, like maybe reviving the faculties, the inner and the outer faculties, the inner and outer senses. All of that can be repaired now with this energy, the life principle, ruh al-haywani, which has now been freed from previous encumbrances and entanglements, if you will. This is like the innate healing mechanism that now peps up. awakens and is now receptive to change and transformation and correction of things that have been maligned. So this is a very interesting and a very basic and foundational teaching in Hikma medicine. And God says in the Quran, كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون, that God has prescribed for you fasting. Prescribed, again, this language of prescription. Like he has prescribed it to peoples before you, such that you may attain God consciousness and maybe even some protection, some wiqaya. But coming back, God prescribed this ancient medicine of a month-long himya, a month-long restrictive regimen for all the believers to free up the body of its usual engagements and freeing up the vital force, freeing up Ruh al-Haywani for being able to be directed then by the dawa. Now, what is the dawa of the month of Ramadan? The dawa of the month of Ramadan is the Quran. It's the Quran. That's the medicine, right? The medicine is the Quran. That's what we stand in Taraweeh, we stand in Taraweeh and we hear it. We just let it wash over us. And we've been fasting, and maybe hopefully we haven't had too much of a iftar, so that the Ruh al-Haywani is still kind of operating. But also we're reading throughout the nights and reading throughout the days, and we're doing our khatim, inshallah, or reading whatever we can read. There's no amount here that's mandatory, or everything is sufficient, right? Anything and everything that you can muster is sufficient, even online, even one page. But the medicine is the Quran. And so when you establish the himya, you're waking up their inner receptivity to the medicine, and then God gives the medicine. And so everything can change now. And this is how we attain the mercy of God. This is how we attain our forgiveness that we seek, how we attain freedom from the hellfire. This is how we attain growth and transformation. This is how we break bad habits, things that we've become accustomed to throughout the year. Things like too much lahu, too much media, too much scrolling, too much Netflix, too much eating at night. All these different things that we have grown to do that are bad habits. Too much sofa surfing, right? Just not moving. We can change now because the Ruh al-Haywani is being galvanized, it's being awakened and being directed properly by a medicine that is coming from beyond seven heavens, right? And so this is something that is beautiful. This is what I feel is true holistic healing, right? This is a healing of a higher order. And this is the medicine of Al-Hakim, Allah Ta'ala, the wise one, the most wise. So we ask Allah Ta'ala for tawfiq, we ask Allah Ta'ala for healing this month. This is a month of healing, no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. This is a month of healing. This is where all sorts of amazing things happen for us. I'm sure all of us have our Ramadan stories, past Ramadans that have just been inflection points for us. It's where the tides turned for us in the past. And may this month be another one of those for us in the positive direction, moving forward to health, forward towards God, connection towards God, deeper connection with ourselves, deeper connection with the book, deeper connection with the tradition, with the men of the tradition, the real men of the tradition, deeper connection with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, deeper connection with Quran, deeper connection with Allah, deeper connection with nature, deeper connection with all these beautiful things, people in our lives, our children, all these beautiful things that we have, these blessings that are real, that are in the real world, that are in the alam, that are blessings. May Allah awaken us to that by awakening first Ruh al-Haywani, right? The inner spirit, by keeping us away from the consumptive processes that keep us stuck in our states, allowing us to change, allowing us to grow, inshallah ta'ala. Ameen. God bless all of you. Talk to you soon, inshallah ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum.